follow the meta route against somebody who has better combat than you, that's not the way you're going to win. But it's Randomizer. Anything can happen.
Looks like we're starting at Vanilla 7. That's an interesting little spot. Yeah, if I feel like I have a better opponent that I'm up against, my normal strategy is actually to route the overworld a little bit differently. Head to kind of different spots in the overworld map that I think my opponent may not check, and hope for an advantage in one of the dungeons that may appear there.
Especially if you get something like early bombs, you may want to consider doing a Death Mountain play quickly.
And I think one of the first caves Fred walks into is level 4 up by the Blue Armos.
I'm assuming Fred will give the dungeon the Rick 6 before leaving.
Especially when there are things like keys that might be sitting on the ground. Gives you an early chance at potentially going into level 1 if you find it early. There's also
quick Tringle.
Yeah, there's also a free Triforce on the ground. I don't think he'll say no to that, and that's an early Triforce for Fred.
Probably gonna grab that and leave.
It's an interesting call on whether or not you go back there if you find the wood sword quite quickly.
With level 4, I think it can be a good idea, depending on what progression you find. He might consider it after 5 Triforces as well. Especially, it really depends on enemy set. If you have an easy enemy set, that's more of a reason to go back to a dungeon. Although easy enemy set is something that Fred might be a little bit more liberal in defining because of his amazing combat. He's been working on getting sub 30 in vanilla for a really long time, and he's close. So just to be able to put up that time in the vanilla game, it really shows the combat prowess there.
We did get to take a quick check of the blue ring shop that's hidden by one of the Armos. And speaking of hidden under the Armos, we have the regular Boomerang, or Lord Banana.
Lord Banana is a fine pickup when you don't have a sword. There are some enemies you can kill with it, so you'll be able to clear out a few rooms in dungeons without a sword. But mostly, once you get the sword, the Boomerang is pretty obsolete.
And not surprising to see ChronoJJ also look up at that Armos since he hadn't seen the Boomerang yet. So he finds the same Triforce at level 4. However, he decided to burn his key to see if there might have been a free staircase to the left.
Again, that's one of those plays that you would make if you feel you're outclassed.
And we've now found one of the larger dungeons with 2 items in level 8. It's down by the river, and I think both runners are probably going to be in there momentarily.
This is a very common route early. When you don't have a sword, you want to prioritize the biggest density of open caves. And the 2 biggest places where open caves are near start and the top right corner. Fred finding another quick Triforce.
Yep, and what I like about what both runners did here is you can pirouette, and what that means is, like, if there's a key door across from where you entered the dungeon, all you have to do is exit the dungeon, go back in, and it treats it as if you've already explored through that key door. So, both of them being well-versed in this game, they both pulled it off, they both didn't have to spend a key, and they're both going to end up with a Triforce.
And that's very, very important in this flag set. In general, it's important to conserve keys, but especially in this flag set.
Yep, sometimes people get a little thrown off when they're running this in this flag set because of where you enter the dungeon from. It's not necessarily traditionally what we play.
And I feel that the more... Oh, wow, another level in this area. These runners are just flying through this seed. I feel that the more early Triforces we have and the more under-equipped these runners are going into 9, the more of an advantage Fred has. If there is progression... If the silver arrows require progression to get to, then I think Fred has an advantage, or Chrono has more of an advantage the more of a routing seed this is. Because more items in trolley locations mean more opportunities to be able to utilize the strategy that you would use. So, for instance, if, say, silvers are recorder blocked in a large dungeon, and Chrono finds the recorder quickly, that might be something that you would want to utilize. But I feel that the shorter this seed is and the less safeties there are, the more of an advantage Fred has.
It'll be an interesting decision when they get to 5 Triforces, assuming that they're all somewhat free and early in these dungeons. Wow, look at all these rupee bosses. But for me, it's just a question of, does that trigger somebody to gamble? Do you gamble if you're Fred, knowing that you probably have a small advantage over your opponent?
I feel that if you're missing both bow and silver arrows, you check other dungeons until you find one of them. And then once you find one, it's correct to gamble of the other one. Oh, we have Wizzies in level 2.
Yeah, the only thing that really alters my strategy when considering items in level 9 is if I have the book, because then I'm gaining knowledge even by being in there. I may find a hint about silvers, or I may at least find both Ganon and Zelda, and then leave. Looks like level 2's item is the flotation device, also known as the raft, so
That
there's
is
2
not
more
a bad
spots in
thing
the
to
overworld.
find. If you find raft late, if you find raft late, then this can wind up being wind up being very difficult to route those 2 spots. I like what Fred did there after picking up the raft, just checking a couple more rooms for keys.
It looks like Chrono routed in the Vanilla 4 spot, and it actually was a take any one-shot, so he's got his candle now.
I think Fred will go there soon. It makes sense to just route this now. But if he doesn't, that could be a big exploration advantage for Chrono. That is a pretty good large secret. Not quite Lost Cards fan approved, just a rupee short, but it's still big bucks in my book. 119 rupees and a spin.
Yep, in these first quest and mixed quest overworlds, when you have 3 secrets, if it's anywhere over probably 90, to me it becomes less of a poverty seed right away. So, oh no, though, he hit a second large secret right there at the desert shop, and now he's basically lost out on, what, 95, 100?
Almost 70 rupees. It wasn't that much. He was a little over 200 hitting it. So with a full wallet... and the secret's that large... Ooh, speaking of money... Chrono has found hints, so we'll want to mark that once we find the book. So in this case, because the book is not a guaranteed thing, do you just hold on to this 255 rupees with as many door repairs and big secrets out there? Or do you buy a blue ring to cover yourself against the door repair, which we haven't seen yet?
I would most likely be going for either... I would definitely be shopping. It may not be the blue ring, but since Fred's at an arrow shop, I would consider that, and he does.
Looks like we are going to see an arrow purchase. I like this call.
Keep in mind, the blue ring, this seed is min-rolled, I believe. It's at 230, so it's not quite as expensive as it usually is.
And Chrono's in 3. That's a dungeon that Fred has not discovered because he did not get the candle at the Vanilla 4 spot. And we have the bow as the white sword item, which does not look like Fred can pick up at 4 hearts.
No, but that certainly speeds up the seed a little bit, because that's one of potentially only 2 items you'll need to complete the seed.
Not only that, but that's going to make Fred very happy about purchasing arrows. And I imagine when Chrono finds the bow over in the corner of Hyrule that he will probably purchase wood arrows immediately. Especially considering that neither one of them has a sword right now.
Yep.
Fred with a very nice screen scroll over to Vanilla 5.
Yep, and he found the candle and bomb shop. Fairly expensive bombs, but with all the money he had, buying the candle and a full stack of bombs isn't the worst play in the world either.
Oh, this is fantastic, because Fred now has a full capacity on bombs, as well as a candle, so he'll have all the exploration tools he needs. I would not be surprised to see him go to the waterfall in the Vanilla White Sword Cave and do an up A and go back to the start to start knocking out those burn bushes. Go from the vanilla start spots over to Candle Row, possibly to the forest, to check the Letter Coast item.
Yeah, it paid off big time too, because the White Sword Cave was in fact the wood sword for the seed.
And that's a pretty ugly place to put the stick, honestly. Especially with their start screen at the location it's at.
What I'm a little bit surprised on is their start location is quite close to where you can actually world wrap. If it were me, I would at least consider world wrapping and taking an up A just so I knew what the coast item was.
That's a fair point. They won't be able to obtain the item because they don't have the ladder, but the knowledge of it is pretty helpful. And it looks like we have Zelda's room in the corner of level 3. Chrono gonna try to get some bombs off of these orange whiz robes.
And you can't bomb left there. That leads me to believe that that's probably a right-hand staircase that is normally in level 3.
That's usually a sign.
Because it tends to be, with the exception of perhaps Zelda's room being there, of course, that if you can't bomb to your left in a room in level 3, that's one of the only scenarios in which that'll occur, because usually level 3 is pretty open, has rules that govern it as to whether or not it should allow you to bomb to every room.
Yes, every bomb in levels 1 through 3, or every wall will bomb in 1 through 3, as long as it leads to another room and there isn't an obstacle in the way, such as an old man or a staircase. And it looks like we do have Fred making that Death Mountain play I was talking about earlier. See if this pays off for him.
And ChronoJJ actually finds the third large secret in this seed, so now he's at max capacity as well. I believe he had about 200 rupees when he did that.
You know what's... And this being the case, I would do my shopping now, because I don't believe Chrono has seen a single door repair in the seed yet.
And here is the dilemma. Do you buy a key or do you buy the blue ring? I could make a case for both. I don't know about you.
I like this blue ring play. You don't have a sword. The sword could be someplace really nasty, and that might let you tank through some nasty enemies in the overworld.
What's interesting about his route is he may visit the desert cave and get his third large secret and then kind of work his way northeast. If he does that, he's going to have a 50-50 shot, as far as we know, of picking up the bow. And he'll have the money to actually purchase the wood arrows in that open cave as well. So he could catch up to Fred quite quickly here and have a defense advantage.
Both a defense advantage and an offense advantage, because those wood arrows would give him a 2-damage weapon, which is something Fred doesn't have.
Unfortunately, because he has the candle, it looks like he's actually going to explore the forest first. It's not really a bad routing play, per se. It's just that in this particular seed, it's only going to pay off if there's a level that has an open staircase in it that he can get to. And we see Fred's play lead to level 6 as well. And ironically, in a flag set in which you can actually go in from any spot in the dungeon, left, right, up, down, it's actually a vanilla start to the 6. So to kind of give everybody a rundown in case you aren't familiar with this flag set. This flag set's set up for potential decision making and gambles. It's a 5 Triforce to enter 9. Important items can be a 9. You can enter the dungeons from any side. And you can also pick up the book and it turns your community hints into helpful hints. So it forces players to make decisions about what they want to dig, and that's kind of what we were talking about early on in the seed. And 6 has a transport staircase and a item staircase, so Fred may have found the item already, or he may just find an easier way around, depending on how lucky he is. And he finds said book.
Ooh, that's a pretty nice find. I don't think has he seen either of the hint shops?
I know one of the hint shops was underneath a candle spot, and I think he did not see that. We're going to see our coast item here. It's the Tutti Flute.
That'll be something that Chrono's going to want to keep in mind after finding the ladder.
And level 6 has the bomb upgrade, or at least one of the two. And it's quite expensive. I don't know that either runner's going to have the money once they find the wood arrows and the bow.
Probably not.
So we've got one runner officially overworld routing, and we've got the other hoping to find the Triforce out of level 6 soon.
I think Chrono is looking for level 1.
We call that a
Pick up the phone because I called it.
Yep, that's reverse commentator curse there.
Chrono might peace out, though, with those land mullahs. And that's exactly what he's doing. That's really unfortunate, because level 1 is one of those dungeons you want to find early.
Yeah, see, with the blue ring, you can... In his case, he could have taken 3 bops from him. I don't know, but I could certainly understand if he didn't have the blue ring.
That's a tough call to make either way.
Yeah, it was an open door as well, was it not?
No, he would also have to use his last key.
No, I'm talking about on the right side of the room, it was an open door. The one he entered from.
Point.
There are little nuances in this game, and on the right side doorway, you can actually get on a pixel that allows you to use your sword, but does not allow the land mullah to attack.
Oh, he's going back in.
It is the case.
He might actually try... Oh, he didn't have any bombs, that's what it was.
So will he use his key or will he bomb up? Looks like he's going to use his key. And is rewarded with a staircase that's going to house the item. What is it?
Oh, wow. This might be something that when Fred comes across one, he might not get this. Because it's been a pretty key-starved seed so far.
Yep. And since he only has the candle, he's trying to use it to execute this clip.
Candle clips can be tough, especially under pressure, and poor Fred just getting wrecked by what I like to call land mullahs on Ritalin.
Yep. Looks like Chrono actually had at that time, but was too quick to enter the block and actually hit his own fire that he fired out.
And this is actually one of the reasons why knowing bufferless block clip is important. And speaking of block clips, that was a nice clip by Fred to get on top of the on top of the block to fight these blue land molas, and we have a wand in the back of level 1.
And that's big.
So spending that key, spending that key is going to be worth it. That's a big combat advantage for Chrono, and now is probably a lot less worried about finding a sword. I would not be surprised to see Chrono take a bop here to get back up on health. Decides not to.
Yeah, I'd certainly just up A and enter from the other side and try it again. Doesn't seem very... Not surprised there at all. So now he's going to have 3 health to actually execute a bomb on the top side of the room so he can enter the rest of level 1.
That shouldn't be too bad.
Well.
And especially with a wand, you can just take them out and possibly get a fairy drop. But unfortunately, if we don't see a key in this room, Chrono will be key blocked. Compass is nice, but that's not going to help him. And look at this, Fred has found the red ring in level 5.
Yep, so he didn't have any money to pick up the blue ring, but he's not even going to need the blue ring anymore. The one issue he has is he just can't find hearts, so he's still not going to be in bow mode.
Well, with that red ring, hearts won't be as big of a concern for him. You still are going to need hearts to be able to pick up the bow, but Fred is more than capable of finishing a seed with red ring 6 hearts. Chrono picking up a key. I like this play. And Fred has found the Triforce in level 5. Chrono is back in 1.
Yep, he purchased a key, which will put him out of wood arrow range for now, but if he can actually pick up the second item in the Triforce out of here, I don't think it's bad play.
And with a wand, I'm not concerned about that. I wouldn't be concerned about that either, because you have a 2 damage weapon, sword isn't a big priority, bow isn't too big a priority either. Holy key doors!
Oh, there's the ladder in 1. That's the second item, and that's big.
Wow.
I think it's quite obvious that if Fred finds level 1, he's gonna dig it. But it's gonna be an advantage for however long ChronoJJ has it, and Fred does not.
Oh, absolutely. This level 1, absolutely loaded. But I think at this point, with the way the dungeons we've seen them, a more valuable item would be the Any Key. If Fred finds the Any Key in his next dungeon, that could be huge for him. Because we have seen a very, very key-tight seed.
Yep, it's a question of what the item... Well, I guess he's not going to go down until where level 3 was, but... Level 3 is the only dungeon left that is not huge, like, say, level 8, with a whole bunch of bosses that both runners can access at this point, that we know of. Fred, with his additional large secret, both runners have found all 3 of those already. He now decides to purchase the meat.
And Chrono up to 7 hearts. Now, those hearts are a lot more relevant on his side because of the blue ring.
Yep, with the blue ring and 7 heart containers, you effectively have 14 health, whereas 4 hearts on Fred's side, he actually has effectively 16 health because it takes your damage and puts it at a 4th instead of a half.
And that's why the hearts are more relevant for Chrono, because of being behind on health. Effectively. So each heart container is... Yes, each heart container gives Fred more health, but it's more important for Chrono to pick them up. Especially since we've seen how nasty that Wizrobe set is.
Looks like ChronoJJ went past the Triforce and gets rewarded with another key. So I like
that call. I like the call. you don't have very many keys, and we've seen so many races where keys have been an issue, and Fred does find a bonus cave, picks up that 5th heart, probably will work his way back up to the northeast corner to try to pick up the bow while making checks along the way.
Yep. Chrono's going to pick up his flute, and we found level 7, so I believe that's every dungeon now that we've seen.
That is correct. All the dungeons are accounted for.
So in the end, this flute's only going to be required for dig dogger blocks, potentially, but it will allow for fast overworld travel too. And Magical Sword, or Mags as we like to call it, is out on the other raft spot. So that's kind of interesting.
I don't think anybody's getting that, though. It's extremely rare for a Magical Sword to be picked up in this like set.
I certainly don't think Fred's ever going to get close to the hearts required to pick it up. ChronoJJ could, but it's kind of in a weird spot to route to.
Even with that recorder, I don't think there's a dungeon terribly close by.
Yeah, the closest dungeon to it, I believe, is in fact level 1, and it's not really that close. It's probably 7 screens away.
That's not worth a Magical Sword check unless you somehow run into something silly like 12 hearts. Oh, I think I understand I think I understand what's going on. Have either of these runners found level 9 yet?
I don't believe so. That's the only dungeon outstanding. One through 8 certainly have been found. Alright, so ChronoJJ is walking into the White Sword Cave that has the bow, and he's going to be happy to see that. Because that means he's one step closer now to being able to enter and defeat Ganon.
Just needs to find those silver arrows, and then Chrono will... Well, silver arrows and level 9. And then he will be in Triforce and Go mode.
And now ChronoJJ finds the wood arrows. It's going to be at least a little bit sad that he doesn't have the money to purchase those at this time.
I still think the purchases that Chrono made were right.
No, I certainly don't disagree with his purchases. Just going to be sad.
Well, not only that, but wondering if Fred has bow and arrows. 8th heart for Chrono.
Yep, I've only one time actually seen somebody go straight into Magical Sword. And they were kind of trolling swordless until they got to 13 or 14 hearts.
I know Panzer Dave would do it.
That was who I was referring to.
Fred's still digging out the 7.
And ChronoJJ at almost 30 minutes finally sees the Armos item and nopes it. Not surprised given he has the wand.
It looks like we're also seeing ChronoJJ go up the mountain ahead. Sometimes you'll be inclined to do this if the screen to the right of Vanilla 5 is dangerous.
And finds the candle and bomb shop. Not gonna need either one of those, but he's probably gonna find the wood sword here in the next minute. Unless there's a nasty screen down here, and there's not.
I don't believe there was.
I mean, Tektites can ruin your day if you're on green tunic and 3 or 4 hearts, but with blue and 8, no way that hurts. We didn't talk about the any roads much, but in terms of how they're spread, they're not super spread out, except that there is one on the western side of Hyrule that takes you to the 3 on the east, so it at least allows people to move horizontally across the map.
And on Fred's side, we have a recorder block Triforce in 7.
Yep, that plays well into where ChronoJJ is at, should he decide to take the Triforce 7 as the 5th Triforce, or 4th Triforce that he takes. However, I don't think in the long term here that that's necessarily what he will do. I think he'll probably want to find other dungeons that aren't 33 rooms and find Triforces there.
I do like Fred's call of staying in level 7, though, because he's already dug out a good portion of the dungeon, and in addition to looking for the item staircase, he's also looking for keys.
Well, he finds the item, and it's an upgrade his
Wait
blue
a
candle.
minute. Red candle in 7.
Well, that's quite vanilla, and it's kind of ironic that Fred's the one that found it.
I was about to mention Fred's name.
And ChronoJJ actually dips back into level 2 and finds a Triforce within a minute, so I would call that a good play.
And I would say that actually puts Chrono...
Now, I'm not sure exactly why he's redigging this. He's got the wrap, so maybe he's not marked
Maybe
that he got
keys.
the wrap? Or maybe keys, yeah.
I definitely wouldn't be searching this room for a key. Not with Wood Sword. But Chrono disagrees. And just a 5-er. This is a bit of an intriguing play, though, as to why you would dig this dungeon for keys. And Fred has just found level 1. So assuming that Fred digs both of the items out of this dungeon, which he'll probably do, I would say that puts them back on even footing. So Chrono's lead is about to evaporate.
It'll be interesting to see if Fred actually finds the wand in level 1, given it's behind that key door. I mean, you would think that he would take both items out of 1 and just open every key door to find those items, but at some point you look at all these key doors and you look at your 4 keys and you say, well, I earned the ladder, I know where the bow is, maybe I just make a play for 9. And that would hurt his combat. Yep, took a brief look at ChronoJJ's tracker, and he does have the raft marked down, so this is a key play, and it is a dungeon that typically has a lot of keys in it, so I don't necessarily fault it, but...
Fred came up with enough money to purchase the bomb upgrade. That could be big for him in level 9. It's a bit expensive at 121 rupees, but it does give the standard +4 bombs.
Yep, the only downside to it, given that he's bought everything else he could possibly need, is that it'll eliminate his ability to rapid fire off arrows at any point, but with 40 rupees left over after the bomb upgrade, I don't see it as a bad play either.
It could come into play, though, because Fred's only a permanent weapon is the wood sword, but have you seen what Fred has done with his key count in this dungeon? He is up to 6 keys.
And typically, what that means is the next dungeon he finds and doesn't know the item out of is probably going to have his any key. Because what we like to say about this game is that it knows.
It does.
Unfortunately, well, he's going to get his key refunded here, so it won't hurt too bad, but by not exploring that first key door in level 1, he's actually burned a handful of keys more than he had to.
Yes, but I can certainly understand the play. It's usually not a very good idea to use a key to check out a single room, especially when you're tight on keys. But once Fred finds out that the item is behind there, he'll probably spend one of his keys to get it as soon as he gets the Triforce. Probably just re-enter.
Yeah, we didn't get a chance to see what the Vire keys were health-wise because of the wand on ChronoJJ side, but they actually are buffed up a little bit.
And that's the 5th Triforce for Chrono, but neither one of these runners is located level 9 yet. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if level 9 was Power Bracelet blocked.
I'm a little interested in as to why ChronoJJ has not actually gone back to Vanilla, or to the start point for the seed, which was Recorder Lake, because there is a shot that it would be there.
He might be looking for a few keys to get started in level 9, but when you're up against a runner like Fred, you don't have time to spare. He will give you no quarter.
And Fred, with his 6 keys, or 7 keys before he entered that room, does in fact find the wand, so the runners are basically squared up again, I would say, except that Fred has a little bit more knowledge as to what items are in level 5 and 7. Because I wouldn't call ChronoJJ's blue ring that big of a disadvantage unless level 9 is just chock full of dark nuts and whiz robes.
And it can be. Or even something like turret rooms that will just nickel and dime your health. Like, if there's a lot of corner turret rooms in level 9, those can get you too. And there's the item room in 3.
Yep, and he knew the rules for this as well. It's very likely that the right-hand staircase is
White Sword in
3. Yeah, the room is usually, I would say, 60 to 70% of the time, it's actually the right-hand staircase that belongs there. And if you know that that's the case, you know that it also drops an item, so he picked up an extra key by knowing that fact.
So I would not be surprised. It looks like he's going back in the direction of the Dead Woods. Might have a couple checks to make along the way, which could be the reason why there's not an up A. Could also be interesting.
I'm not sure if he's misreading his own tracker. His tracker does say he's got the item out of here.
I think I know what he might be doing. He might have marked... If he's using... Depending on what utility he's using, he might have marked... he might be looking at level 1. He might be looking at level 1 or something. Because I'm not sure what he's doing back in this level 2. Fred taking a potion, which is a good play at this point, because you have no money to buy one.
Was that the Recorder Lake spot that had the potion shop?
But something like this can happen to anyone.
No, it wasn't, because he's world wrapping, so we'll find what Recorder Lake has now, I think. And your reward for Recorder Lake is 31 rupees, so it's not exactly what our runners will be looking for.
It's not terrible. But I am thinking at this point, we've seen both the raft spots, we have pretty good overworld coverage. Have we been up to Spectacle Rock yet?
Not sure. I know that Fred ventured west in Death Mountain to start it, so I'm not sure if he eventually made it east or not.
And Fred about to find that bonus cave that Chrono did a while ago.
I expect Fred to go ahead and enter level 2 now and make sure that he has his 5 Triforces secure. But this may come down to a situation where the person to find the power bracelet might actually be the one ahead. Because I don't...
Now Fred's in level 2.
Yeah, but he doesn't have the Triforce out of it, and he knows exactly where it is.
But I'm really, really confused as to why Chrono's spending this much time in level 2. This is probably something we'll need to ask him after the race. And Fred with the huge hint in level 2, finding that level 9 is indeed on Death Mountain, so Power Bracelet not required. That hint is going to swing this race back in favor of Fred, because he knows exactly where to look for level 9.
Yep, just a question of how long until ChronoJJ realizes that he has this item. And he's not going to be happy with himself when he realizes that, I don't think. It's been at least a 3 or 4 minute time sink for him so far.
It's been an easy it's an easy mistake to make. Everybody's done it.
Yeah, but it's certainly something that frustrates you when you do it. Looks like Fred's opting to go to level 8 first, and at least get one or of the 2 potential items in here. Instead, finds the transport staircase first, so we'll have to keep looking.
I don't blame him. I don't blame him, though. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of information to potentially obtain, and for Fred, there are a ton of items outstanding. But I would say, given where the items were, this is a good risk management play by Fred.
Alright, ChronoJJ has full cleared level 2 and may have just now realized. And it looks like he's gonna leave.
That's about a 4 to 5 minute difference, and if he loses the race by less than 5 minutes, he's not going to be very happy. He'll know exactly why.
The other issue for ChronoJJ is he doesn't have the book, so that old man level 2 didn't tell him much of anything that he could use, so he's not going to know exactly where level 9 is, but I would think he'll eventually route up there, so it shouldn't be a huge issue for him.
Because right now, I believe we're missing the items in 4, 6, 8, and 9?
As far as I'm aware, we have Wand and Ladder in 1, Raft in 2, White Sword in 3, Red Ring in 5, Book in 6, Red Candle in 7, and are missing the items in 4, both items in level 8, except for Fred just found the heart in level 8, and 2 items in 9. So in Fred's case, it's a 50-50 call as to whether or not the silver arrows are in level 9. But he doesn't know level 3's item as well, so in his specific viewpoint, and not our viewpoint, it's actually a 40% chance.
I do like going into 8 first, though, especially if you think you're ahead. Which, given the order that Fred has found items in, it's reasonable to think he's ahead. Because if you feel like you're ahead, you're going to make some plays on the smaller dungeons that have higher item density, just as a measure to cover. If you feel like you're behind, you'll just go straight into level 9 and hope.
I find that what increases the potential for level 8, hey, there's the meat block, so he's going to be able to use this meat on some of the Gorias instead of actually having to burn it. But my decision on level 8 typically resides with what boss do I see first in there, because that'll tell me what boss that's in there, and do I have the tools that allow me to explore it quickly.
That's a good point as well, because level 8 does have a lot of bosses.
So given Fred's situation where he has the recorder and can take care of the Dig Darker, he has the wood arrows, he can take care of Gomas, he basically had it all where he could basically clear every boss in level 8, so it makes
It looks
way
like
more sense to me.
We have a potential recorder blocked item in 8.
I want to say there was a key door on the top of this room. Maybe I was wrong. Yeah, it's a key door, so maybe not a block.
Nice Dig Dogger kill by Fred. And there it is. That item in level 8 is Dig Dogger blocked. And we are about to see what this is. Fred picking up another key by clearing those Pulse Voices. And we have the Power Bracelet, which might actually... interesting.
It's a decision between level 3, 4, and 9.
Has he found all the dungeons yet?
He has found all the dungeons except for 9 has the hint for it. I would not be surprised to see him go up to level 4, go to level 3 right after, and then head up.
Not quite sure why he would pick up the Power Bracelet there then, because I believe if he's found all the dungeons, he knows it's not required.
Don't know, maybe it's just having... Well, actually, now I'm second-guessing myself as to whether or not he actually burned the spots next to Vanilla Start, because if he hasn't found level 3, that Power Bracelet play makes a bit more sense. But Fred's found the actual cave for 9. And it's not too far away from where ChronoJJ is, so it'll be interesting to see if he routes there and finds it shortly thereafter.
Only one way to go. So now that Fred is in level 9, there are 3 things he's going to be searching for. The first thing he's going to do is he'll be keeping out an earful.
Whoa!
Oh, that's a huge hint for Fred.
That's actually a game-changing hint. Because that means the silvers are in level 4. But he has...
So now... And Fred knows it, too.
But he doesn't apparently know where level 3 is. So, we're gonna have a little window of opportunity for ChronoJJ to perhaps dig some of level 9, because I think once he finds level 9, he's gonna play the odds and gamble it.
In his situation, that's probably the only way he feels he'll win. But because Chrono does not have the book out of level 6, he will not get the silvers hint.
So where is Fred fluting to? Level 4, so he's making the correct call.
And from his perspective, this is a good call anyway, because when you're searching for silver arrows outside of level 9, you just want to search the dungeons you know that they're at first. And he's also got to be thinking that because of the early Triforce in this dungeon, that Chrono is unlikely to redig this dungeon for the item.
So decision time for ChronoJJ. I don't fault this decision in his spot because he's probably assuming he's behind, but unfortunately we know it's not going to be the correct play.
And this is really the advantage to having the book in this flag set. Even though it does make your wand shoot fire, it's one of the more powerful items in this flag set, just because if your opponent doesn't find that book, he's not going to have that information. And in Zelda 1 randomizers, we've seen in past tournaments, information is power.
It'll be an interesting decision for me to see what he does when he finds one item in level 9, if he finds it early. because then it kind of reduces the power play that level 9 would have. Because you have one item, it's like, it's over 50 rooms, and you know where level 4 is at, so you may opt to at least explore level 4 or some of the smaller dungeons you have left outstanding.
And while making the deductions to where the silvers are, he'll be pretty happy to find the any key. Because we know that with the silvers being in 4, we know that the any key and the scrap metal are the remaining items. And there's the silvers for Fred.
Scrap metal being the magical boomerang.
And I believe, I'm not 100%, but I believe those were ladder blocked.
Yep, that was the ladder block that ChronoJJ ran into when he used that key right off the start. So ladder was required. And finds the any key in level 9. This could potentially be a play if he decides to leave. If he decides to dig it out, it will probably be the end of his chances at catching Fred. The Darknut sends him back to start at least, so here's the decision time. And he's gonna opt to dig.
He's going to dig out the other item. This is not a bad play because he does not know where Ganon and Zelda are. The general meta when you're looking for an item in level 9 is you will check all of the staircases until you find Ganon and Zelda. Once you find Ganon and Zelda, and you already have one item, the correct meta is to leave. Most of the time. It depends on how much of the dungeon you have explored as well.
Question in chat was Fred ahead wire to wire? I would say that there were times in which ChronoJJ was at least even. Say, for example, when he had the ladder advantage by 4 or 5 minutes. So I wouldn't say Fred had this from the get-go, but certainly in the last 10 minutes or so with the book in hand, he got the necessary information for level 9. ChronoJJ takes another death, so with every death is an opportunity to potentially leave.
And there's Fred's any key. Probably pretty thrilled to see that.
Yep, that was pretty much the only thing left in his way as far as what he needed to potentially complete the sea, because he's at 5 keys, which sounds like a lot, but level 9 can equalize your key count in a hurry.
So now I wouldn't be surprised to see Fred put less of a priority on checking staircases.
Fred found a shutter door. I'm not sure if this one potentially houses Zelda or not, but I don't blame him for cleaning up the Patra to see if it is.
Nope, not Zelda.
Yeah, fighting the Patra from the right side is kind of a dangerous game, too. It seems like the Patra behaves normally if you kill it from the left, but if you kill it from the right and you kill the wrong orbiting Patra, it can sometimes send those Patras into weird patterns where they tend to go all sorts of different directions. So while both players are digging through level 9, I want to give a shout out to both the Restreamer and Cyclone for pressing the buttons behind the scenes on that. And also a shout out to our tracker this evening and backup commentator, Algernon. Without both of those people, we would not be able to put on quite the same show for you guys.
Fred just found the hint that dark nuts guard the compass, so he will probably start clearing every room he can that has dark nuts in it, in hopes of finding the compass. We have seen some pretty ugly rooms where this defense advantage could come into play. Where Fred has the defense advantage, Chrono has the offense advantage, but Fred has a lot more knowledge of items than Chrono does. And that book was what really made the difference between these two and what we've seen so far in this race.
Yep, the book can be a huge play. Sometimes it's one of those items that tells you where the book was 2 or 3 times over by telling you it was ladder block and telling you what dungeon it is. And other times, it right away gives you the information on where silvers are and where bow is. So it's a feast or famine play to pick it up sometimes when your best weapon's the wand, but I don't ever blame anybody for picking it up.
Fred's gonna try to refill bombs, but unfortunately the Vires rolled extra HP, so you will not be getting bombs off of them. And Chrono has found the Nanner and is out the door.
So his play, in my opinion, is still level 4, right? Because he's found level 4. He has not found 5, 6, or 7.
And Fred has just confirmed the location of the pig.
Yep, so time is running out on ChronoJJ. Will he opt to go back to level 4? So Zelda, in this case, is either going to take 13, 14, or 15 hits with the wood sword. It's plus or minus 2.
And there's the stun lock. Ooh, Fred dropped it.
Yep, looks like he got a little lucky with the 50-50 swipe on Zelda, and then she moved a little bit away. Good news for Fred is he had the potion though, so even though he had to use it, it's probably not going to impact this race too much.
Ganon is really not giving Fred a very nice pattern. And there's the Silver Arrow, there's the Triforce of Power. So now that Fred has the Triforce of Power from Zelda, all he is looking for is a single shutter door that opens immediately, even while other enemies are in the room. And Chrono is digging 8.
8 does have 2 items, so not perhaps the worst decision to dig that over level 4, but unfortunately we know it's not going to pay out. Looks like Fred is heading to the northeast in a hurry. I guess it's just because that's a spot where he hasn't cleaned up all the rooms. Tried to bomb down, but we know that that's an old man.
So at this point, Fred is going to be just looking for as much coverage as possible, and I would not be surprised to see him start taking staircases soon, and that's what he is doing. When you're running low on rooms in level 9, you really need to start taking staircases to be able to make any headway. But Fred is also down to his last bomb.
Yep, I suspect he's holding on to it in hopes that he can find a couple of decent rooms to work a 10 count in.
And there's the nanner for Fred, so I believe he has found every item.
Yep,
Except
100%.
the white sword.
Oh, that's correct. He doesn't have the white sword.
He has found every item except the white sword. A little surprised that Fred is not clearing out these dark nuts in some of these rooms. May have forgotten about the hint. And based on his pathing through this dungeon, I would say Fred is looking for staircases. That's the power bracelet, Chrono.
Yeah, he has not found the heart container out of level 8 yet. Will he continue digging it, or will he leave? Looks like he'll stay in, which wouldn't necessarily be the worst of plays, just, again, we know it won't pay out.
And that's one of the things about a randomizer, any game where there's a significant amount of uncertainty, is that the correct play is not always the winning play. Especially in this flag set, because you're not guaranteed to be able to visit. You're not guaranteed to visit all the dungeons, and if the silver arrows wind up being in a dungeon that you never found on your way to level 9, that can make all the difference.
Yep, looks like Fred has dug out about all but 16 or 17 rooms to level 9, so it's kind of getting to that point where it's just a matter of time. Although he's trying to get a bomb drop off these red dark nuts, and they're just noping that.
So he's probably going to be just upping and trying to clear out these dark nuts, because he might actually be trying to keep some of the bubble and trap rooms cleared. Because if he wasn't concerned about that, then I wouldn't be surprised to perhaps see him just whistle to get out of this dungeon and then whistle to a dungeon that's close to a bomb shop. Does manage to get a drop though.
Meanwhile, ChronoJJ did find the heart container in level 8 and is now heading to level 4, which will pay out eventually for him, but will he run out of time?
Well, I don't believe Chrono knows where Zelda is either.
Correct, he does not know.
And based on the exploration we've seen from Fred, it looks like Zelda is not easy to locate.
Yep, but 9 can be the great equalizer, because it can tend to play to, a staircase potentially being magical, and if one runner finds it and one doesn't, that can be the game.
And that's one of those cases where if there is a magic staircase, then the person who doesn't have silver arrows coming into 9 can actually have an advantage. Unfortunately, Fred, using his last bomb, clears this reverse C and is rewarded with a key that he doesn't need anymore. Fred has actually had a lot of bomb trouble in this level 9. Does get a pack from that room.
Another key door.
Fred, depending on what other doors we see in this dungeon. Oh, there's a staircase that I don't think he's taken yet. So this could lead someplace.
He hasn't looked at his map recently, but I gotta think there's only another 5 or 6 rooms left in level 9 for him at this point.
There's not a lot left. He's got pretty good coverage on all but the top right area.
Well, he's got this little bottom portion here. And that may
That
be her,
could
we
be.
don't know.
That could be. No, it is not.
Rolled by a couple of gel.
So, I'm thinking it's either a magic staircase or a magic bomb hole.
Oh man, Chrono couldn't see where he's going, just couldn't see that there was a block in his way and took the trap. And he's run out of time, unfortunately. Fred sees that shutter door open, and he is going to rescue Ganon. Looks like the official SRL time on that is 1:05:48. Get your GGs out for Fred.
That is not a bad time considering how difficult it was to find in his case Ganon. That was a very convoluted level 9. So we'll see if Fred wants to have a few words with us. I imagine he probably will.
Chrono will be working his way down to the location of the Silver Arrow, so I fully anticipate Chrono's going to try and finish this one out.
Not surprising. Probably won't be too happy with how convoluted level 9 is. But there they are. There are Chrono Silvers. Chrono will have a slight offense advantage, though.
Yeah, and really he shouldn't feel too bad about his play this race. He, outside of going into level 2 a couple of times too many, he really didn't make any mistakes. He basically played his game.
I agree with you, and that wound up not making the difference in this race. So I would say that realistically, this race was out of his control. It was just Fred finding that book in level 6 made all the difference in this race. And it looks like we do have Fred in the waiting room, so we'll be able to get him in very shortly.
And I hear the ding in Discord, so it sounds like we do have our winner, Fred Coughlin.
Hey there, guys.
Congrats, Fred. So what do you think the difference was in that race?
Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe the book for hints, but really, I don't really know, considering the fact that I did almost everything except for find level 3.
You are absolutely 100% correct. The book was the big difference because it gave you 2 big hints. The first is it told you that the power bracelet was not required because when you found the hint in level 2 where Death Mountain was an entrance to death, you knew that none of those power bracelet spots are on Death Mountain. And then finding the Silvers hint very early in level 9 made all the difference. Chrono full cleared level 9 looking for the Silver Arrows.
Bummer. Although I didn't actually get the information about power bracelet there because I never found level 3. So I didn't know power bracelet wasn't required.
Yep, level 3 was a burn bush, I believe, near Vanilla Start.
Yeah, those 2 I was planning to head over to when I decided to dig into 8 there. So that's pretty much what happened there. But yeah, I had no clue, especially once I found the power bracelet there in 8. I said, okay, at least I know where 9 is, but since I didn't find 3, I had to keep that in the back of my mind. I was going to be hitting some of those push blocks on the way.
Yep, we have ChronoJJ instantly back in Ganon's room now that he has the silver, so we'll make probably quick work of Ganon.
Another big difference in this race where you was that you were the only person to dig the red ring out of 5.
Yep, that certainly came into play a couple of times in level 9, because with the blue dark nuts running rampant in some of those rooms, it made it difficult for ChronoJJ to make it through.
The combat in the Seed wasn't the worst, but it was definitely not easy.
It was good stuff. You know, he's got white swords, so that helps him out just a little bit there. But, you know, I mean, it wasn't end of the world, but it's still, you know, just was more of a lot of a puzzle Seed. And, you know, especially with these flags, can come down a lot to getting lucky in terms of what directions you turn.
Oh, absolutely, especially with the ladder block silvers in 4 in a dungeon that had, I believe, an instant Triforce.
Yeah, I got the Triforces out of, I think, 4 was almost right away, 8 was almost right away, the 2 of them. And then the third Triforce, you know, at that point started dragging out a bit. I could have potentially had 2 if I'd had a weapon, the one from level 2 reasonably quickly too. So, you know, with 3 Triforces there, close to start and 20 seconds, so... not 20 seconds, but just like within a few minutes potentially. It was a good Seed, though. I have to say, it was a fun one.
At that level 9, Chrono is probably going to have the same bomb issues that you did. I noticed that level 9, with the Vires having increased HP, and the bomb dropping, and the only bomb dropping enemy being very sparsely populated orange dark nuts, made it very difficult to keep a bomb count anywhere.
Yeah, I was trying a couple of times to do that, and then I just kept burning myself with the fire from the wand. So just ended up, you know, trying to farm those dark nuts right near the beginning. Fortunately, the up A was able to take me directly there, and other than that, a couple times I almost considered leaving, but there just weren't any bomb shops super close to where things were. I guess I could have gone over to the northwest corner. There was a bomb shop over there. It was like 3 or 4 screens away, but I was definitely still a little worried at that point about where he was, and therefore trying to find, you know, trying to get through 9 as quick as I could, and just hoping that I'd find a bomb drop somewhere when I needed it.
And that can definitely impact your decisions once you get to the 50, 55, even the hour mark. Because even though Chrono is a newer runner to the randomizer, he has shown significant skill.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, again, he's a 2-in-1, and you do not get to 2-in-1 in these brackets here without getting you know, some good wins. If I go back, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Just name. Like, I can name some of the big names that are in 1 and 2, and it's astounding.
Oh, agreed. You know, this is a incredibly tough tournament. There's a lot of names that are out there who are, you know, potentially in trouble. There's some names out there that, you know, you wouldn't necessarily expect that are that close to being eliminated potentially. So it's an incredibly tight field. It's a really good, you know, again, it's leading to some really exciting matchups here as we go on here, but it's also leading to a lot of scary matchups because, you know, it's going to lead to a bunch of elimination matches in this round to a degree and next round as well. They're going to be a lot of fun to watch and very painful matches at times.
Oh, absolutely. A prime example of that being... I think it's... There's a couple really crazy ones in 1 and 2.
Yeah, just looking through the names, some of the names who are down in that range, there's definitely a number of names that, you know, I could have looked at the start of the tournament and said some of these names could easily be 3-0 or 2-1, and yet...
Like the big one, the big crazy 1 and 2 matchup is Crim and BT.
Oh, absolutely. That's not a matchup again, that's easily a matchup you'd see at least a 2-1, if not potentially even higher there. So it's kind of crazy that matchup has ended up as a 1 and 2. And so you're going to see one of the 2 of them get that, you basically get that third loss there. And it's, you know, it's a tough bracket no matter what you're saying there. So it's going to be a great match to watch, that one, but it's going to be incredibly painful as well.
And then another one is the Toaster Fry Teeth match. That's a 1 and 2.
Yeah. As you said, there's a ton of people out there. I mean, Toaster is one. I mean, I haven't seen Fried Teeth play a ton, but Fried Teeth, is one that I've definitely seen, get good results when I've seen them play. Toaster, I've seen play in some of the nightly races at times, and is not a surprise at all to see in first place on a number of them. So, it is a really, really tightly packed field here. You got the 2-in-1s lead to, half of the field getting knocked down potentially to potential elimination. I mean, you had Rick against Jam today, which is another incredible match. Just literally picking one off the top of my head that happened that I saw there. That was a 2-in-1 match, and so I mean, obviously, Rick won. So sorry, spoilers. So that pushes him into the next round, but now you've got Jam sitting at 2-2, and Jam is one of the strongest players that I've played against. I think he's knocked me out of two or three of the tournaments that randomizer tournaments I've done. He's been the man who's knocked me out in the bracket phase, and when he's got his back against the wall, is a killer player. So it's going to be a very scary matchup for anyone who gets him in the 2-2 bracket there.
There are just a lot of extremely crazy players. Like Jay Coper is ranked a little bit lower than you would expect him to be as well.
Yeah, Jay Coper's an incredibly strong player as well there. I didn't even realize that he was, at that record. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously we'll see how things go there. But Jay Coper has been playing this game pretty much since the beginning. He's got incredibly good play. Pretty much anything you're doing. He's playing against Vanivan, who's also an incredibly strong player who's been coming up here. So that matchup easily could swing either way. So, that's a matchup, great matchup to check out tomorrow night at 11:59 p.m. Eastern tomorrow night. I can still say tomorrow night because it's still same day time zone here. But that's definitely a matchup I'd recommend anyone out there, if you get a chance. If you're awake this late, definitely check that match out because that's going to be a really good matchup there.
Oh, absolutely. And round five is going to be just a bloodbath.
Oh, agree. I mean, you're going to get so many good matchups in round 5. You're going to get the matchups of, obviously you'll see some of the 4-0s against each other. You'll see the 3-1s against each other. And even though everyone's now making it into the bracket rounds, I mean, those matches still matter because that'll give you your relative ranking within the bracket. So, the better you play, the more likely you are either to get a bye or, to face a lower ranked opponent. I say with gigantic air quotes because, I think any of those lower ranked opponents are still incredibly terrifying with the skill level we're seeing here. Getting 3 wins out of Swiss here is incredibly difficult to do. And then you're also going to get those 2-2s, which are going to be killer matchups.
Oh, absolutely. The 2-2 matchups are going to be incredibly heartbreaking for half of the people half of the people that are at that ranking. And it was the same case with the 2-2 matchups in the last tournament, but even more so this time because the last tournament there was at least the last chance qualifier for the bracket, and this time there's no such last chance qualifier.
Sorry to cut in here real quick, but looks like ChronoJJ has found the bomb hole to find Zelda, so let's give GG's out for him as well.
Oh, absolutely. That was a tough bomb hole to find, too.
Yeah, I think it might have been 1 magic staircase, but if it wasn't 1, it probably was 2 staircases there. So good game to him to find where that was. I mean, in terms of walking, it was much easier done with at least 2 staircases there, but geesh, good for him.
Oh,
absolutely.
118.30 is his official all time.
Not a bad time considering where some of the items were located and not having the book. Because I think he went into almost every room in level 9, but we'll see if we can get some words from Chrono as well. Because for a while, the race was actually really close.
Oh, absolutely. Chrono, as you said, is an upcoming player here. Has been putting up some really strong performances here. So, I was definitely not taking this one for granted. This was going to be an incredibly tight match, and it's really fun to see how it turned out here. So I'm glad it was able to be a good match for everyone.
I'm scared to play against him in round 5. And that's that's not even guaranteed. That I have to get through Norastra first. But like you said, almost every runner in 2-1, 2-2 is so scary, and it looks like we will
Absolutely.
get some words. We will get some words with ChronoJJ. And with that, we have ChronoJJ in the commentator's booth. Great job on the finish. That was a little bit rough with the silvers.
Yeah. Well. Yeah. Well, oh well.
So the big question that both of us are ready to ask is, what happened in level 2?
Oh, well, I got that raft so early and on, I didn't remember I got it.
Oh, that's really easy to do. I actually did that in one of my tournament matches, and it very nearly cost me a race. So I'm there with you.
Yeah,
Yep.
so yeah. I mean, I think I got that even before I had the sword. So I was like, man, I don't think I ever got the item in 2. And then after I bought the bow or the arrows to kill that Goma in there in case it was blocked, then I looked up at the top of my tracker and I was like, wait a minute. I already got the item there. And that was a dull moment, but I have many of those.
I would say the big payout in this race was finding level 6, which had the book, I want to say. And from there, Fred got the hint as to where level 9 was, knew it wasn't blocked by a power bracelet, and also he got the hint for silvers right away in level 9, which turned him around. I would say that made the biggest difference in the seed.
Oh, absolutely, because you didn't have to. Fred, as soon as he found that silver's hint, walked right out the door and immediately went to level 4.
That lucky dog.
He only had 2 dungeons left, though. It was either go into 4 or go searching for 3. And in that case, it just makes more sense to go into 4 because you want to search a dungeon that you know is there, rather than perhaps because he did not know the position of level 3. So for all he knew, it could have been power bracelet blocked. And that was one of the things that we were thinking about until Fred found the hint in level 2 that told him where level 9 was, that it could be a power bracelet required seed.
Yeah, that thought crossed my mind because that old guy was like 3 or 4 rooms in, and when I went in there and he told me he didn't speak highly in there, I was like, uh-oh, I hope that doesn't say where the silvers are and Fred has the book.
And that's exactly what happened. Both of you wound up clearing quite a bit of 9. I think one of the other big differences is Fred found the red ring pretty shortly after you bought the blue ring.
Oh.
And just his combat in general was cleaner, but
Well,
Fred is just an incredibly strong player.
I mean, you saw me trying to fight those whiz robes.
Yeah, we were wondering for a while. The other reason we were thinking that you were fighting Wizrobes in level 2 was maybe to get some keys, but there are typically better places to look for keys than that. Because this was a pretty key-starved seed too, especially with the any key being in level 9.
Yeah, I'd like to say there's a good reason. There wasn't. Maybe I was just trying to get practice, and I was going to give Fred a few minutes to get a head start.
But in any case, that does drop you to 2-2, so you will be playing for your tournament life next in the next round, but you're not out of it yet.
Oh, no. Even if I lose next round, in my mind, I won't be out of it.
But if you do win your round 5 match, that does put you into the brackets.
All right, well, we'll see. I mean, we'll see.
But we do wish you luck. There are a lot of... there are going to be a lot of scary runners in 2-2.
Yeah, well, yeah. I just have to get lucky. And remember when I find the raft in level 2.
Right. So with that, do you have any final words you'd like to say about the seed, Chrono?
No, I mean, didn't seem that bad of a seed. I mean, there's Triforces lying on the ground everywhere, so that part was pretty easy. It was just, for me, was finding the silvers was kind of annoying, but I wouldn't really say it was hard. Just
more of
annoying.
a resource management seed, I would say. And with that, it looks like it will be a wrap for this race. So Fury SK, take it away.
All right, well, on behalf of both runners, ChronoJJ and fcoughlin, give both of those runners a follow because they did a great job this seed. On behalf of Speed Gaming for restreaming this for us. On behalf of Algernon, who tracked for us, and on behalf of my partner Raikou Rider, I'm Fury SK saying so long for now.